Introduction to the German cases. German has 4 cases that include the nominative, accusative, dative, and genitive. But what do they mean and how should you know which one to use when? This is going to be a beginner's guide that introduces you to German cases, and it's going to help you understand the concept behind this unusual grammar topic. This will be especially helpful if you have no idea what the German cases are and haven't touched the topic yet. As English speakers, the idea of German cases might sound confusing and even frightening, but German cases are easier to handle than you might think. The first step is to understand how grammar works in your language. Let's talk about the English cases versus the German cases. Before diving into this case system details, it's essential to learn the names of each part of a sentence. We have our friend, the subject, gave, the verb, us, the indirect object, a key, direct object, to his brother's house, a prepositional phrase, to being the preposition. And in German we have unser Freund gab uns einen Schlüssel zum Haus seines Bruders. In English, you probably don't think a lot about the labels of each word in your sentences. So a reminder can be helpful when you're learning German grammar. Next, let's see how each element of the sentence corresponds to a German case. We have the German case equivalent and the sentence element. Our subject is nominative, our friend, unser Freund. The direct object is accusative, a key, einen Schlüssel, and the indirect object is dative, uns, us. And our possessive object is genitive, his brothers, seines Bruders. Usually in English, you use word order to indicate who is doing what in a sentence. But German, on the other hand, uses cases. It allows you to place the nouns in different positions throughout the sentence without changing the meaning. In English, she and her mean the same thing, but you use them in different situations, depending on what sounds right. The same concept applies in German, but until you know what sounds right, you have to use the grammar rules to help you. In this table, you can see how the sentence subject takes the nominative case. Likewise, direct objects take the accusative case, and indirect objects take the dative case. Finally, possessive objects take the genitive case. These cases apply to nouns themselves, their endings and modifiers, and adjectives and determiners. These are just fancy words for things like the, a, and an. Now let's look at each case in a little more detail, what it is and how to identify it. Let's start with the nominative case. Sentence subjects take the nominative case in German. You can identify the sentence subject by asking who, wer, or what, was, is performing the verb. Let's look at some examples first of the nominative case and subjects in a sentence. Our first example is, wir sind da. We are there. Kennst du ihn? Do you know him? Das Haus ist gelb. The house is yellow. Eine Katze kommt. Eine Katze kommt. A cat is coming. Sein Buch fehlt. His book is missing. Usually, sentence subjects come at the beginning in English, or after helping words like a, the, his, her, du, or other similar words. And in German, these helping words and sometimes the nouns have different forms depending on the case. Now let's have a look at the accusative case. You want to use the accusative case for direct objects in a sentence. Typically, direct objects are things the subject is acting upon and answers the question who or whom. In German, you use wen in place of who in the accusative case. Our first example, Ich mag dich. I like you. Ich is the subject, mag, the verb, and dich, our direct object, in accusative. Next, hat einen Stein. He has a stone. Einen Stein is accusative. Sie nimmt das Brot. She takes the bread. Sie, subject, das Brot, accusative, direct object. Wen hast du getroffen? Who did you meet? Wir haben ihn getroffen. We met him. Him being accusative, direct object. Now, if we look at the dative case, what's different about dative is that it identifies the indirect object. So this is the person or thing receiving an action from the subject via the direct object. Usually, you have to have a direct object to have an indirect object because the indirect object cannot stand alone in the sentence. For example 2, malt ihnen ein Bild. He paints them a picture. Sie haben uns Besteck geschenkt. They gifted us silverware. Du leihst mir das Auto. You loan me the car. Wir geben ihm die Anweisungen. We give him the instructions. Here in every example, you can see the thing you're giving is accusative, and the person receiving the thing is in dative. Last but not least, let me tell you about the genitive case. In German and English, the genitive, or possessive case, it lets us indicate belonging. You'll usually find the genitive case more frequently in written German than in spoken German. In spoken German, the case is often replaced with a dative equivalent. In its question form, the genitive case asks the question whose or wessen. Let's look at a few examples of this. Wessen Auto ist das? Whose car is that? Die Küche unserer Mutter ist groß. Our mother's kitchen is large. Das Wohnzimmer deines Bruders ist klein. Your brother's living room is small. Der Urlaub seines Onkels ist im Juli. His uncle's vacation is in July. Der Geburtstag meiner Schwester ist im Februar. My sister's birthday is in February. These are the 4 cases that you'll need to learn. Remember, this is just an overview of how the cases work. For the full lesson on German cases, I'll leave a link down below for you in the description, and you can work at it at your own pace. The full lesson includes a list of pronouns, preposition, and points out when to use each case, so it can help you take the next step in your understanding of German.